Hello, ladies and germs, and welcome back to George Bean's Reviews. Well, today, it's finally come. I'm doing a movie review and sort of fan commentary on the science fantasy film that changed the very face of science fiction forever. Yes, that's right. The one, and the only, 1977 science fantasy action-adventure film, Star Wars. Here, I'll be watching the special edition cut because I've got no choice thanks to George Lucas. I've got to say, Star Wars is one of my all-time personal favorite movies in my life. I love this movie. It's just one of those rare movies that would change your life forever. It's definitely one of those movies that you would want to watch as a form of escapism away from the boring everyday life that you live in, and it just rekindles that sense of wonder that is living dormant inside you. Back in 1977, this movie was simply titled Star Wars because the studio 20th Century Fox was afraid that giving it the subtitle Episode 4 A New Hope would confuse the audience. Ever since then, since The Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980, this movie has been retitled as Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, or some people refer to it as just A New Hope. But I, for one, would prefer to call it by its original title, Star Wars, because that's what it was known by during its original theatrical release. Upon its release in 1977, it earned $461 million in the United States and $314 million overseas, totaling $775 million worldwide, replacing Steven Spielberg's 1975 film Jaws as the highest-grossing film at that time, before it was surpassed by Spielberg's 1982 film E.T. the Extraterrestrial. When adjusted for inflation as of 2013, Star Wars is the highest-grossing film in the US and Canada, and the third highest-grossing film in the world. It received 10 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, and won 6. From the moment of its release, it took the entire world, even Lucas himself, by surprise, and is now often regarded as one of the best films of all time. It was selected to become part of the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in its first year of opening as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, we'll get into that story later. In his 1977 Chicago Sun-Times review, legendary film critic Roger Ebert called the film an out-of-body experience, compared its special effects to those of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and opined that the true strength of the film was its pure narrative. The lines the characters say had become famous quotes and even internet memes, including, "May the Force be with you," "I have a really bad feeling about this," can't do it, and so on and whatnot. And I'll be watching the movie a bit. This review may be short, but I may cut to certain parts in the movie, so hopefully you can catch on. The music score was done so to say. The opening is really good, and I love how it starts with "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," and then the title appears. The music score was done brilliantly by the legendary music composer John Williams. It was composed in 12 days, but it is still considered the best music in a film in cinematic history. John Williams did the score just after he won the Academy Award for Best Music on Jaws. Williams had become a musical icon all around the world, composing the music on a lot of movies, and scored all of Spielberg's films, except for Spielberg's first film, the 1971 television film Duel. Williams is honestly my all-time favorite music composer, because his music, in a way, sounds operatic and is very catchy. And if you listen to it while looking out at the stars in the night sky, it fills you with such a sense of wonder and makes you feel like life is definitely worth living. What makes it better is that Williams revealed that he is coming back for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and I'm glad he's back. Star Wars would be different without John Williams' operatic music score. So yeah. So if I had a list of most favorite music composers, John Williams would be number 1. Listen to his music on YouTube, it sounds very good. What makes this opening scene memorable is that the opening crawl and this first shot explains to you everything you need to know about what's going on without having to ask one question. Small ship, rebels. Massive ship, Empire. The size of this Star Destroyer just shows you how resilient the Empire really is, while the small scale of the rebel ship shows just how resistant they really are, and you side with the rebels really well. And here's where we meet C-3PO and R2-D2, and which is basically our, hook of the movie. They set their actions basically lead into the story in a way. They're like the MacGuffin. And here's where the Empire attacks the rebel ship, believing that the data tapes for the schematics for their battle station, the Death Star, has been jacked by the rebels, and is planning to get it back by any means necessary. The opening shot just basically gets right into the action immediately, and I think that's why this movie is, ever since I first saw the opening scene when I was a little kid, it really got me, and it's really good. It just popped right into the movie. Every sound you hear in this movie, such as R2-D2's beeping, Vader's breathing, the gunshot sounds, the spaceship sounds, the Wilhelm scream, Chewbacca's growls, etc., were all done by sound designer Ben Burtt, who has worked on all the Star Wars movies. He was also editor on the prequels, and he also did the voice of the title character and many other robots in the 2008 Disney Pixar film WALL-E, which is also another personal favorite of mine, which I'll do a review on sometime soon. The sounds he created for this film are really astounding, as all the effort and hard work he'd done had paid off real well, and these sounds are once again fits in well. And now here comes the villain that frightened us the moment he was first shown here. Ladies and gentlemen, Darth Vader! Since he first walked onto the screen, Darth Vader has become a cultural icon all over the world. Shut up! We don't even need to get into that shit. We've all heard that crap before. As we all know, the voice of Darth Vader was done by actor James Earl Jones, who in a career of more than 60 years has become known as one of America's most distinguished and versatile actors, and one of the greatest actors in American history. He is also in a lot of other movies, such as a cameo appearance in the 1964 comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. He played Malcolm X in the 1972 film of the same name. He played the voice of Mufasa, Simba's father, in 1994's The Lion King. He also played Admiral Greer in 1990's The Hunt for Red October, and he was also the neighbor Mr. Myrtle in 1993's The Sandlot, which is another good one of mine. We already met Princess Leia, who was played by Carrie Fisher. She was 19 years old at the time, but she does a very good job, and she's also coming back for The Force Awakens, including Harrison Ford as Han Solo and Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And so to say, you know that guy Joe Johnston, who directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jumanji, and Captain America: The First Avenger. Well, in case you didn't know, he worked as a concept artist and effects technician on this movie. His association with Lucas would later prove fruitful as he won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects on his work on the 1981 action-adventure film Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was directed by Spielberg and produced by Lucas. He was also an associate producer on the 1988 fantasy film Willow, which was also produced by Lucas. Here's where the Imperial shooter guys on the outside gun turrets notice the escape pod. They don't shoot it saying there's no life forms on it when really the robot's on there. If they'd have shot that escape pod, the robots would have died and the Empire would have won. And Luke would have still been on Tatooine. Never know. Lucky as shit. I love the stormtroopers. Their uniforms are really nice. I would love to own the uniforms and the guns, just to walk around and shoot. Chung, chung. It's really cool. And also, they're everywhere. Based on it, there's like a legion of them. Here's where they explain what Darth Vader's here for, which is for the plans for the data tapes for the Death Star. It's never explained why, but apparently there's a weakness on the Death Star, and they're attempting to retrieve the data out of fear that the rebellion will find a weakness on the battle station. In the original script, Tatooine was originally a jungle planet. Even producer Gary Kurtz traveled to the Philippines to scout locations. However, because of the idea of spending months filming in the jungle world would make Lucas itchy, the director refined his vision and made Tatooine a desert planet instead, which is really cool. And the Tatooine shots were the scenes set in Tatooine were shot in the Tunisian desert in the high northern corners of Africa. The temperatures there were reaching over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning. One day, a fierce thunderstorm tore the sets, delaying production, but everything still worked out in the end. And even during the scenes, they were having technical difficulties. Nothing was working for them, including R2-D2, who just kept malfunctioning. It was like the worst time ever, even for Lucas. And why I'm bringing up the thunderstorm part is because in 1997, while filming Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, once again in the Tunisian desert, another fierce thunderstorm toward the sets, toward the racing pods, etc., once again delaying filming for a while. Lucas considered this a good omen, but when you think about it, it reminds you of that saying, once is a blessing, twice is a curse, and it fits in with those two movies. The production on this movie was very difficult and stressful for Lucas. He was unhappy at all times, even if the cast and crew tried to form a smile on him. At one point, he felt chest pains, and afraid he was having a heart attack, he went to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with hypertension, and was warned to keep his stress levels down. So that's why he's probably never directed another movie after this, until The Phantom Menace. The Jawas here are really cool. They're really cute when you think about it, and they're also scary with the hood and their face not being seen except for their eyes. And their vehicle, the big-ass vehicle, is really cool as well. Looks like a giant truck. And here's our young protagonist, Luke Skywalker, played brilliantly by Mark Hamill. It takes 17 minutes for Luke Skywalker to appear in this movie. And he's living with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. The home in Luke's home here is really nice, very beautiful. I would love to live there. And this part coming up where Uncle Owen buys the red R2 unit, it goes, but not. He bought C-3PO in red, but not R2. But then the red R2 unit malfunctions and dies out, and like my car, and lucky as shit. If that red R2 unit didn't die out, then R2 would have still been with the Jawas. All those little bits just worked out so well. I've heard the franchise destroyed Hamill and Carrie Fisher's career because it's saying it caused them to be typecasted. I think this whole typecasting is really stupid because I believe Mark Hamill is really good in this movie, and I believe he deserves more. He was once again and I'm a fan of Mark Hamill, and I wish he was given more. Also, he did the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series. Listen to his voice, and it sounds really awesome and frightening. In one original script, Luke was originally called Anakin Skywalker with 2 N's in Anakin. Even in Lucas' original story synopsis for the film, Luke was an aging general, which was changed as well. But in The Force Awakens, he'll be coming back, and it will show him as more of an Obi-Wan type character in his late 60s with a big beard, now wise with his knowledge of the Force. And it's gonna be cool to see Luke back on, and our trio of heroes back on the big screen next Christmas in December 18th, 2015. In Lucas's words here, the film was described as a fairy tale, as it shows a young hero leaving his home to go on a big adventure. And you know, I said to myself, if I ever make a fantasy sci-fi movie involving a young protagonist leaving his or her boring home to journey through space, I would set the first third of the story at the hero's home, and have his home as a farm-like land in the middle of the Arizona desert, so as to pay homage to Tatooine, and pay a bit of homage to the first act of Christopher Nolan's 2014 film Interstellar, and even that 1986 science fantasy movie The Last Starfighter.
We're on 66. This is the one where the ATM thing.
Okay. The scene here where I'm gonna turn this up here. I love the concept of the blue milk, so to say. This scene here where Luke stares out at the beautiful setting of the twin suns, accompanied by the amazingly beautiful music score by John Williams and his London Symphony Orchestra. This is the moment where Luke just wishes that he gets a taste of an adventure. The scene relates to us all because we feel just like Luke. We have that boring life of living in a strict environment in your home, and and always dreaming of going out in the world, and just wishes for that day to come soon. Then thankfully for Luke, 20 seconds later, his wish comes true. I love Luke's glider. It looks really cool. I'd love to drive that. You can see even the glider in that 2013 movie, Machete Kills, or Machete. And Mel Gibson, who plays the villain in that movie, had a glider with wheels on it, and he drove it around in his corporation building. It looks really cool. I would love to drive around in that. And here's where we meet Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness in this movie is brilliant in this movie. His performance is really good as Obi-Wan. And he plays the mentor person, the mentor in this fairy tale. I love that piece of music, when Obi-Wan takes off his hood, revealing his face. Also, Obi-Wan's nickname, if you notice, is Ben, or Old Ben Kenobi, as Luke refers to him as. I love the scene in Obi-Wan's home where he talks about Luke's father and how he was once a Jedi Knight and a good pilot, and he was a good friend. That just tells you everything you need to know about Luke's father, and Obi-Wan tells you everything you needed to know about the backstory, and it just tells you good exposition. So it's not like we need the prequels to tell us everything. Obi-Wan's exposition here just tells you everything, and that's it. And even though Luke's father is not named, but now that we know, his name is Anakin, so with Anakin. And here's where we see our first scene with the lightsaber, and it's described what it is, but we don't see it in action until later. But it's such a cool weapon. I'd love to have that, but it's a really cool one. I would love to have mine in either blue or red. The concept of the lightsaber was later spoofed in the 1987 Mel Brooks comedy Spaceballs, where it was, and also the concept of the Force. It was referred to as the Schwartz. And check out that movie, it's really funny. And here's where Obi-Wan explains who Darth Vader was, and what he has done, and how he betrayed and murdered your father. He was being metaphorical there, but when you watch it for the first time, it sounds so, good, and telling Luke that Vader murdered Luke's father. It's such a cool, here's where Obi-Wan tells us the concept of the Force, saying it's an energy field. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy. But in the prequels, Lucas contradicted everything about the Force by saying saying that the Force is the form of a rare gene called midichlorians, and a blood test says the higher your midichlorian count is, the stronger the Force is in you. So basically, it is genetic superpowers you are born with. The concept is very baffling, very sacrilegious against the original concept of the Force, and I think of it as Lucas' subtle way of giving us the finger. This midichlorian concept was never brought back up or even explained more about in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, or 3, Revenge of the Sith. And it just, and the fans have considered it as the moment Lucas had destroyed the franchise. And has angered fans, every fan around the world, including me. And I think the whole midichlorian count thing is just stupid. I prefer the Force to just be an energy field, kind of like religions. And here's where Obi-Wan proposed Luke join him to Alderaan. Here's our first look at the Death Star. In one of the original scripts, I don't think it was a planet destroyer, but it was called the Space Fortress, but it was still massive enough to be a grave threat. And we'll get to the point of what the Space Fortress was originally in the script. And here we meet the other villain, Grand Moff Tarkin, or Governor Tarkin, who captains the Death Star. In one certain script, he was called General Crispin Hodack, Hoedack, and this is where they mention, so to say, Tarkin mentions that the Emperor has finally dissolved the Senate, and so it took them almost 20 years to dissolve the Senate, based on what Revenge of the Sith says. This is where they mention the Emperor, who we will be meeting in Empire Strikes Back, and becomes the main villain in Return of the Jedi. But he is a very important person, so if you watch this for the first time, keep the Emperor in mind. And interestingly, in the original script, the Emperor's name was not Palpatine, but his name was Costa Shit. I'm sorry, that name is just so funny. I wonder where Lucas came up with that name. Yeah, it sounds alien enough, but Costa Shit? What? I'm really glad that he changed it to Palpatine. Palpatine sounds like the name for an emperor in the Roman Empire. Plus it sounds more interesting, even though we probably never heard that name until The Phantom Menace. The scene on the Death Star is where they mentioned that one weakness the Death Star has, which is that 2-meter wide thermal exhaust porthole, which if an X-Wing fighter fires a proton torpedo in it, would destroy the entire station. Some people will call it a Deus Ex Machina, and as it doesn't make any sense for it to be there, but who cares? I think it works fine to me, as it makes the final battle more suspenseful and makes us hope the hero doesn't succeed. Some people said it was the equivalent to the video game thing for the final boss, where the final boss has that one weakness that is so obvious for the hero. So yeah, but it works fine by me, especially when you watch it for the first time. Even though you may question it like, what? But it works fine to me. That whole, the exhaust hole was later parodied also in Spaceballs as the big self-destruct button, which says, self-destruct, do not push, even though it's very easy to push. This moment here where Luke finds Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru dead by the Empire. It's such a sad moment to see his uncle and aunt dead. It really is. when you think about it, Darth Vader isn't in this movie as much as we thought he was. Granted, he has always been seen as the main villain of this trilogy, but he's rarely in this movie. This was before Lucas decided to, spoiler alert, make Vader Luke's father. End spoiler. But that scene where Vader force chokes that one Imperial officer just tells you to not to trifle with Darth Vader, or else he will force choke you to death. Even at one point, in one of the original scripts, during the final battle, Vader in his TIE fighter was killed during the battle, but Lucas changed it, which is good, because without Vader being in the sequels like Empire or Jedi, they wouldn't have been as good as they are now. Having one main villain featured throughout the trilogy, and making him the hero's nemesis, can be a very good thing, rather than having different villains in each movie, which is what the prequels decided to go with, like Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, or Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. And here's where we go to Mos Eisley Spaceport, which is such a cool place.
Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. You must be cautious.
We must be cautious. Here's where you notice all the CGI additions done by Lucas, even during when he did it in 1997. And we'll get to that very soon about those special edition changes. But this moment where Obi-Wan uses the Force to fool that one stormtrooper, you don't need to see his identification. It's really cool. I wish we could use that for real life, like if we end up getting arrested or having a problem with the bank, you can go like, you don't have a problem with my bank account. We don't have a problem with your bank account. That would make life so much easier. And I love the Cantina band. If I ever get married, and I want the wedding band to perform this Cantina song. It's such a cool music. It sounds like jazz also. Thank you, we're the Cantina band. If you have any requests, shout them out. Play that same song! Alright, same song, here we go. Alright, same song, here we go. And this bar here shows us the different aliens. It just shows you how many different cultures and races could come together in this one place, and it shows you just how big this galaxy universe really is. This guy here laughing looks like the devil. And we don't serve their kind here. How the droids are prohibited from the bars. And it shows how there are even some racial tensions as well in this universe. And the part here where Luke meets those two criminals who have the death sentence on 12 systems has been parodied multiple times as well, including on Family Guy and Robot Chicken. He doesn't like you. Sorry. I don't like you either. You don't even know me. You know what? That's right. I'm Pig Nose, and this is weird alien dude. I don't know why they call it hot. They should call it cold. Easy there, bro. I'm up for the ban. That was from the Family Guy Star Wars parody episode called Blue Harvest. It's a funny parody, and I know you all have seen it as well, unless you've been living under a rock. So, we're wanted men. I have the death system on 12 systems. You'll be dead. And here's where we see the lightsaber in action for the very first time. It shows you what it does if used in a fight. It would be cool to have those. It would be easy to cut through basically everything. And very dangerous as well. Do not try it at home. And here's where we meet also Chewbacca, who is a Wookiee. It was also a companion of who we will later meet, Han Solo, who is a smuggler and a cocky pilot. Here comes a good song as well.
Han Solo.
It's such a great way to introduce Han Solo. What he says here, Millennium Falcon. Do they say it that way, or? Because I tend to hear it as Millennium Falcon. I'm Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, and the only actor whose career wasn't destroyed by this movie. Always triple. Always rinse before takeoff. Waka waka. All right, let's go. Han here proposes that they pay him $10,000 for the trip to Alderaan, but then Obi-Wan says, "How about 10,000 now?" And wait, and that's a lot of money if you think about it. 10,000, or as Obi-Wan proposed, 17,000.
2,000 plus 15 when we reach Alderaan.
2,000 now, plus 15,000 when we reach Alderaan. 17,000. Wow. Plus it shows how desperate Han really is, because he has to pay off a debt to notorious gangster Jabba the Hutt, who coincidentally also lives on Tatooine. No, not coincidental, I mean, you know. Bleh. Why did I say that? That's stupid of me. But yeah, it's such a good story arc for Han in this movie, and it's been done a lot of times as well in Spaceballs, Titan AE, etc. And I love this guy, Greedo. Unkachocha Solo. He's speaking Huttese. I can barely do Huttese, but I love doing that Unkachocha Solo, which is Huttese for going somewhere solo. And this one part on who shot first, in my opinion, and every other fan's opinion as well, Han shot. It was Han and only Han, plain and simple. Han shot first forever. George Lucas' reason for changing this is because he did not want Han to be seen as a heartless killer. You know, his reason doesn't make any form of logical sense to me, and every fan across the globe, which leads me to my argument about George. I'd like to believe that George Lucas is the lead hypocrite of the Hollywood industry, and I have the evidence to prove it. I've read on an article that back in the late 1980s, Lucas did a protest in front of Congress over the preservation of film and how classic films should be preserved in their original form and not be remastered or changed in any way. But then when his original trilogy was re-released to theaters in 1997 to celebrate the franchise's 20th anniversary, he made very obvious changes to the film, adding in CG characters or elements that were, to put simply, distracting from the story. And upon every further release of the film, he would make further changes, thus angering the fans, including me. The only time Lucas had released the original unaltered versions on DVD is on the 2006 special limited edition, which I had, but I had pawned it, which I now regret. But the problem is that he put the original cuts on a bonus disc like it's just trash. Also, the disc is anamorphic for widescreen TVs, like a flat screen, and the video transferred onto the disc is the same format they used for the 1990s Laserdisc, 1993 Laserdisc edition, and just only gave the special edition cuts all the glory. He even said that the special editions are really his Star Wars films, not the originals. He also said that he goes by a belief that any version should be seen only once. He means that we can only get to see the 1977 original cut just once. I've heard that when the Liberty of Congress selected this movie, Lucas refused to give them the original 1977 cut, thus alienating the fans even more. I also heard on a Star Wars review by YouTube user Sam's channel that while making the first film, Lucas went down to his special effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, or ILM, to see how the visual effects were going. He was sorely disappointed by the effects. These were the same effects that is in the movie. He even said that the original cut is only 20 to 30% of his original vision for Star Wars. I only have one question for you, George. What is your vision exactly? You've waited 2 decades just so that you can put a rock in front of R2-D2? It's the perfect way, it's perfect just the way it is, so stop. I think this helps prove that Lucas has stopped caring about the story for these movies, and relies on the effects to fill in the rest of the story. Even in the past, somewhere around the late 70s, early 80s, he said in an interview that he prefers it that the effects would be used, he prefers it that special effects be used to fill in the story, and not vice versa. When he did the prequels, he contradicted what he had said. So he is hypocritical, or a liar. And so you know what, Lucas? You can go ahead and pervert or rape the original Star Wars movies as you please, but at least give us a choice. Give the original cuts more recognition. Those are the movies the original audiences grew up with. When it comes to home video, the one thing you should be giving us is a choice over which version to watch. Give us both versions, and we can decide which to watch, even though we will still watch the original anyway. And you are just taking that will of choice away from us. So fuck you, George Lucas. Fuck you, you hypocritical motherfuck. But as we all know, in late October of 2012, Lucas had semi-retired and had sold both the Lucasfilm Company and the Star Wars franchise to Disney for $4 billion. Soon after, Disney announced that a new Star Wars sequel trilogy was coming soon. This left the fans polarized. Some was enthusiastic, while others were angered. But since then, and now with the teaser trailer, the fans seem to have softened up to it even more. I am even more excited for it as well. But also, since Disney now owns the Star Wars, we can just hope and pray that sometime in the near future, Disney will release the original unaltered versions of the original trilogy on Blu-ray. That would definitely be an amazing dream come true, and let's hope that that $4 billion made it all worth it. The part here where the Millennium Falcon goes into light speed. I love how the stars just and then boom. It's so cool. And so to say, that Lightspeed sequence was also parodied by Family Guy, with where it made fun of how it looks like the Doctor Who opening, the original one. You know, it's so funny. And here's where we see Princess Leia's home planet, Alderaan. In the original script, it was called Aqualay, and it wasn't destroyed at one certain script, but it was put under siege by the Empire. The space fortress went into orbit around the planet, and the story called for our heroes to free the planet from that siege. And it's never explained how long exactly the charge for the super weapon on the Death Star takes, but if you read in on the internet, it takes 24 hours for it to charge up. So that explains it. So if they tried to destroy the Yavin Red Giant, if they destroyed that, it would have taken them another 24 hours to charge up before destroying the rebel planet. Leia says Alderaan has no weapons, but Family Guy parried that as well, saying the reason why Alderaan was destroyed is because they had weapons of mass destruction, as the Emperor claims. Kind of like what Bush claimed for Iraq. And this shows us just how ruthless the Emperor is when they destroy Alderaan anyway. They want to prove how deadly the Death Star is, and it would keep the galaxy in line for the Empire. The Death Star also reminds me of the UAV drones we use now, almost. I know that probably these were the only effects they had in '77, but I feel Alderaan's destruction and even the Death Star's destruction are too quick. I preferred if their destruction was more slow burning, kind of more like that one scene in that 2000 animated sci-fi film Titan AE, where the alien dredge mothership destroys Earth. It looked really cool compared to here. I'm fine with it the way it is, but I just wish it was more slow burning. I like the scene where Luke does his training with the lightsaber, because he says he wants to be a Jedi Knight like his father. It's really cool. And to say, the concept art for this film was done by Ralph McQuarrie. It was his concept art that convinced the Fox to give the film the go-ahead. And you should check out his concept arts on the internet, or the making-ofs. They're really astounding and breathtaking when you see the art. It's really good. But, all the ships we see in the original trilogy are actually miniature models, done brilliantly by ILM, which he founded for this movie. The digital photography was done by special effects artist John Dykstra, who would later go on to become an important pioneer in the development of the use of computers in filmmaking. He also did the special effects for the 2004 superhero film Spider-Man 2, which was directed by Sam Raimi. So that one awesome scene where Spider-Man fights Dr. Octopus on top of the subway train, all Dykstra. And he also acted as visual effects designer on X-Men First Class, ensuring the 6 effects companies involved delivered all the shots required despite the tight schedule. And I also love the blast shield helmet. It's really cool. With the blast shield out, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? And Obi-Wan gives Luke the nut shot. That's based on what Robot Chicken implies. Han doesn't believe in the Force, believing it's a hokey religion, and believes Luke's use of the Force is just luck. But he begins to believe in it throughout the trilogy, even if he is still, skeptical. But he does soften up to it. And here's where the Millennium Falcon jump out of light speed and reach Alderaan, only to find it destroyed. Outside, where we see all the debris of the planet, reminds me of the arcade game Asteroids. Pew! 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 Destroyed by the Empire. That's no moon! It's a space station! It's too big to be a space station. You can hear what they say is that how they end up getting drawn into the Death Star is because of the magnetic field around the ship, the station. The tractor beam, it pulls them in. That explains why they're going into the Death Star. They have no choice. Once they're in it, they're inevitably pulled in against their will. You can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting. And in the original script, our heroes didn't end up going to the Death Star. Instead, they traveled into the very heart of the Galactic Empire, the Imperial capital city called Alderaan, which was originally conceived as the Cloud City that we see in Empire Strikes Back, as part of a plan to rescue the princess. But it was shortened here to the Death Star so as to make the story simple, and also because his original script was mammoth-sized, massive. It was like 200 pages long, and it was called many different names, such as The Journey of the Wills, or Episode 1, the quest of Luke's Star Killer, and etc., or even the Star Wars. And now it's changed to simply Star Wars. But in his 200-page screenplay, there was a lot of things going on. It was basically what the original trilogy is. It had everything and it just was massive, and because of its massive size, he couldn't have been able to fit it all together in one movie. It would have been like 5 hours long, probably, and so he decided to take the first act of the movie and rework it into what it is now, and in that script, the final battle in that script at the end involved Death Star, but he decided to put it in here to give it an action-filled climax, which worked out well. And it also explains why he had another Death Star in the third movie, Return of the Jedi, because because he had already used the Death Star in this movie. But in that, that screenplay was the basis for the original trilogy, and read it, and you should read the original script on one of the Wikipedia page websites for Star Wars, such as Wikipedia, or you can read the original script in one of the script websites, such as Starkiller Scripts, and it's really good. In the original script, where the Imperial officer says TK421, in the script it was originally THX1138, in reference to Lucas' original other film, THX11, film of the same name, which was made in 1971, I think. But yeah. But he did eventually use the THX1138 as the number for one of the prison holds in the Imperial prison part of the Death Star. Cell block 1138. Do you have a swimming pool? It's funny that there is no swimming pool because it's Death Star. Obi-Wan here goes on his own to turn off the tractor beam to give our heroes the chance to escape. But little does he know, Princess Leia is on here, and that's where our Han and Luke and Chewie go to rescue the princess in the prison part of the Death Star. The massive size of the Death Star is parodied also in Family Guy, where they showed a map of the Death Star, which is a reference to the shopping mall, such as Macy's or JCPenney's. You are here, or the escalators and all that. It's really funny when you see it, and it all makes sense as to where every part of the Death Star is. But so to say, I think it would be nice to talk about the new film Star Wars: The Force Awakens, coming out to theaters December 18th, 2015. It will be directed by J.J. Abrams, the same guy who directed Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness. When you look at his Star Trek movies, they do have that Star Wars feel to them. It is no secret that Abrams is without doubt a Star Wars fan. But also, when you watch the making of documentaries on those movies, it explains to you that they used practical and visual effects for those movies. In them, they used number one, practical filmmaking. On Into Darkness, the Raiders of the Lost Ark homaged cold opening is set on a planet that has a red forest. On the documentary, the crew said they initially were going to film that scene in a jungle in Hawaii, but they found it either too Earth-like or too expensive, so they decided to fake a red forest by painting the leaves on the artificially planted trees red. Number 2. Real sets and locations. For the interior scenes on the starships, mainly the USS Enterprise, it is a legitimate set that they were sitting in, not green screen or blue screen, and the engine room scenes were filmed in an actual brewery. As an example, on the exterior scenes in Iowa, it really is a real location, kind of like the Tatooine scenes in the original Star Wars. And if you watch on the documentaries on the 2009 Star Trek, they talk about like the buildings in one deleted scene they had, which is the buildings in the background behind, like, such as young what's his name? Young James Kirk. That's actually just a small model, and they made it look like there was a real building behind them, but it's just a small model version of the skyscraper, just 5 feet away from them, and it's really cool. And last but not least, number 3, visual and CGI effects. For the giant flat-screen-like view screen on the Enterprise bridge, they used a green screen outside the really built view screen, but the screen didn't have the glass due to safety precautions and reflection ordeals. For the CGI, they used it for the space scenes involving the spaceships and the San Francisco skyline. So yep. But when you watch those documentaries on those Star Trek movies, and when you think about it, they prove to you that Abrams is the perfect man to direct a genuine Star Wars film. Some people even thought of him as their dream director for it. And so on January 13, when he was announced as the director for Episode 7, it was a shocking surprise, and it was a fantastical dream come true. Some YouTube users even commented about the choice of Abrams for Episode 7. For example, I can't wait for Star Wars 7. These Star Trek movies are made the way Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 should have been made. Models, makeup, and less CGI. Yes, that's why the original Star Wars series still live up today. Or, I consider Abrams a great filmmaker. I am really excited to see what he does with Episode 7. Be real nice to see practical effects in Star Wars again. Or even, this is why I have hope for Episode 7. Real practical sets and effects. Not a couple of guys sitting on a green box looking out a green window in their green spaceship. Hell, even YouTube movie reviewer Mr. Harry S. Plinkett himself thinks Abrams is the perfect guy to make a Star Wars movie. He even said it himself on his Star Trek review. In fact, J.J. Abrams should have directed the prequels, while George Lucas should have directed the audience to their sheets. And so yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens when 2015 comes out, when Episode 7 comes out. But I think he is perfect for the movie. I think J.J. Abrams is the perfect guy to direct a Star Wars movie. This part here where Leia and Luke meet for the first time when Luke is dressed in the Stormtrooper uniform. Aren't you a little short to be a Stormtrooper? Or as Family Guy would put it, aren't you a little fat to be a Stormtrooper? Well, stay here and rot, you stuck-up bitch. But it's such a cool rescue plan in the movie. It's a good action sequence. It's not like those big crazy action sequences today. It has finesse in it. The giant garbage chute that our trio of heroes fall down in to escape from the stormtroopers is really cool. It sets up the tension as to the fate of our heroes. You become afraid that they may die, but even though they don't, but it's such a good tension-filled scene. And the creature that attacks Luke, when you watch the Family Guy parody Blue Harvest, it's Meg, and it's really funny. I've got a really bad feeling about this. I love the scene here where Han chases down the stormtroopers, and then he runs into the whole army and shoots them. They could have easily shot him right there and killed him, but nope. So close. He was right there in front of them, and they could have all shot him dead, but lucky as shit. Also, because the stormtroopers have terrible aim, it's just really funny how they're supposed to be the deadliest army ever, and yet they can't shoot for shit. And it's been referenced many times in other movies how bad guys tend to have terrible aim. And I love the scene here where Luke and Leia do the swing from one part of the place to the other. It's a cool little scene, and it has that adventurous feel to it. So to say, while developing Star Wars, Lucas, before he even came up with Star Wars, back when he was a film student, he wanted to make a film adaptation of the 1930s serial series, the Flash Gordon, which is also a space adventure series as well, and that was the thing he grew up with at that time, Flash Gordon, and you should check it out on Wikipedia. It's really good, and that acted as the main template for Star Wars. When he was writing the plot outline for this movie, he used the Flash Gordon series and Akira Kurosawa's film The Hidden Fortress as obvious influences for this movie's story. And check them out, they're really good. The Hidden Fortress and Flash Gordon. I like how our heroes get separated during their fights against in the Death Star. It's really cool how they're scattered and then they return when they escape. And here comes the very first lightsabers duel in the entire Star Wars franchise between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. Yeah, it's flawed, and they don't move as quickly as they do in the prequels, and Obi-Wan does this unusual spin move, which makes no sense, as Vader would have definitely taken that as a chance to kill him. But it's really good, and I think it's the best lightsaber duel in the original trilogy, besides Luke and Vader's duel in Empire Strikes Back. Your powers are weak, old man. I think it's a really good duel because it's the first duel in the franchise, and it was good at the time. Hey, Obi-Wan, remember when we fought in that volcano through a pool of lava and death, surfing on tiny little machines and doing flips and kicks everywhere? Yeah, sure do. We got so old. Preach. That was done by Nostalgia Critic on YouTube, on Top 11 Good Things in the Star Wars prequels. And the lightsaber sounds were once again also done by Ben Burtt, and they sound really good. It has that humming sound, and when they strike, it's really cool. And here's where Obi-Wan sacrifices himself. It's such a worthy sacrifice. Some people I heard said his death didn't make sense, but I think it works very well. Plus, he's getting very old as well. I love that moment where Vader kills him right here, and it's done in slow-mo, and he disappears, his cloak falls. Here where Vader steps on Obi-Wan's cloak, he's trying to see what happened to Obi-Wan. But when you watch it, Obi-Wan basically became one with the Force when he was killed. He said, "If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could ever imagine." That's what happened there. And you can hear Obi-Wan's voice telling Luke, "Run, Luke, run." He's basically become one with the Force and is also, in a way, a Force ghost. It's really cool. And in the Star Wars parody by Family Guy, the hero's escape was made fun of, where Peter and who plays Han in that episode, and what's his name? Brian, who plays Chewie, were trying to carry this big couch onto the Falcon, and it gets wedged in the ramp, and Peter decides to stay outside and hang on to it as they escape, and it's really funny. You can see Peter holding the wedged couch in the ramp, and easy. Here's where we see the famous dogfight between the Millennium Falcon and the TIE Fighters. It's a cool idea where they shoot the TIE Fighters. Movie unintentionally inspires those famous video and arcade games. The dogfight here is actually inspired by old footage that showed the airplane dogfights in World War II, interestingly. Lucas wanted the dogfight to be influenced by those particular fights, even taking it shot for shot from the footage. It's very well made, and I think it's the best space dogfight in cinematic history. In the Family Guy parody, it's explained why they're called TIE Fighters. Basically, they're controlled by the TIE people, T-H-I-A-I. It's funny in a way, but it's cool. And here's where Han finally takes down one TIE fighter. Haha! It's really cool. I was like that when I tried one on a video game, where I shot down one enemy ship on a video game. I was like excited. It reminded me of that scene in Star Wars. I got him! Great kid, don't get cocky. Or as Family Guy would put it, great kid, don't get penisy. And in that particular episode, Leslie Nielsen, oddly enough, showed up and said, "I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you." And even though they finally took down the TIE Fighters, we all know the battle still isn't over, as, you know. But yeah, it's really cool. And we realize here that the Emperor has put a tracking chip on the Falcon so as to track them to where they're going. And this basically leads them to the hidden Rebel base on Yavin 4. Thus making the suspense even more higher for our heroes. Leia says, "They're tracking us." Then why'd you go to the Rebel base? You could have went anywhere else or something. But as the How It Should Have Ended video on YouTube say, and it's all Princess Leia's fault. This is where Han says he's doing this for the money, and he basically goes through a shift in characterization, and how he starts off doing this for money, but then as the movie progresses, he begins to, you know, change his personality and becomes friends with our heroes at the end. Spoiler, anyway. Here's the planet Yavin 4, which is a moon orbiting the red giant, where the rebel Yavin 4, where the rebel base is hiding at. I love this one guy when the Millennium Falcon lands. He has the gun. Paching, paching. Gotcha. And also in the original script, the Yavin 4 was originally also the homeland of Chewie's kind, the Wookiees, and it showed them. No, wait. Yeah, that's where they went in one point in the movie and in the script, and it showed them in a space, I think, in an ambush against one of the Imperial outposts, and the data plans for the Death Star looked cheesy at that time, but that's all they had to go with at that time. And it reminds me of Pong, but it's really good if you just let today's standards just wipe away from your mind and watch this. It's really good. It's a cool, I love the little schematic video thing of the type of the X-Wing dropping the proton torpedo into the exhaust port, leading into the core of the Death Star, or into the main reactor system of the Death Star in the middle, and which would start a chain reaction, which should destroy the station, and it's really cool. They say the shaft is ray shielded, so they'll have to use proton torpedoes. 2 meters wide, and it's like doing the slingshot, trying to hit a small target on the wall. If it was me trying to drop a torpedo into that little hole, I would have missed for sure. But to say, at the time of this film's release, it had massive merchandising, mostly involving toys. It sold like wildfire, and they took the companies, toy companies by surprise. It took the toy companies by surprise, and the merchandising was crazy massive, such as T-shirts, coloring books, cereals, etc., including this, a pillowcase. It's really nice. I'm still waiting for that Star Wars flamethrower. Come on, Disney. The kids will love it. This where Han, just after he finally got his pay reward, he begins to have doubts on what he would want to do. Even though he says the battling to death against the Empire is suicide, but he still has minor doubts. And you just go like, cynical, Han. But it's obvious that he's doubting what he wants to do. It's such a cool story arc for this man. in the special edition cut, we see Luke reuniting with his old friend Biggs and Wedge. I think it's cool that they have that edition. It works out, 'cause that way we can meet Biggs. We never meet them until in the middle of the final battle, even though he mentions them, Biggs and Wedge, on Tatooine, but I think it works well that they reunite here. It's such a nice addition for the movie. It doesn't distract from the movie, and it's a nice little add-in for the movie, I think. Yeah. I love the X-Wings. It's really nice. And they'll be coming back for Episode 7. And I think that's what, that's also one of the many things the prequels lacked, the X-Wings. They had different fighter ships, and which is sad, but when you saw the X-Wings in the teaser trailer, it looks really cool when you see them in action, gliding over the big lake. It's a really cool way to show them again, making a great comeback. And I think I know it's making fans, even me, excited. I'm very excited to see the X-Wings back. Welcome back, X-Wings. And I love this moment where this is such a cool moment where all the rebels in their X-Wings leave, getting ready for battle against the Death Star. I also love the table in the Rebel base where it shows the big graphic of the Red Planet and the Death Star and Yavin 4, and it gives us, how much time the Rebels have before the Death Star is in range of the Rebel base to destroy it, and it gives the battle more tension as well. Red leader standing by, Red 4 standing by, Red 5 standing by, Red button standing by, Red Fox standing by, Big Red standing by, Red October standing by, Helen Red ready standing by, Simply Red standing by, as Family Guy would put it that way. It's such a great, well-laid-out battle in this movie, and it has set the standards for future sci-fi films that have a third act like this, such as Independence Day, Titan AE, Battle for Terra, James Cameron's Avatar, even Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe even Marvel's The Avengers. When you look at that final battle in The Avengers, it reminded me of this battle here, and how it's exciting and very action-filled and fun and really good, and how the heroes win at the end excitingly. There are multiple Star Wars video games where you can fly an X-Wing and go into battle. I never had that chance, but I would love to. If I had that one chance, I would love to fly an X-Wing in the video game and do the battle against the Death Star and do the torpedo drop-in thing. If you hear at that point, cover me, Porkins. It's that name, I don't know. It's never explained how Porkins and X-Wing gets destroyed, but he says I got a real problem, and how he's told to pull up even though he doesn't, but then it's never explained exactly what happened there, but based on what Family Guy says, it was his excessive weight that caused him to crash. I don't know, but... But here's where the TIE fighters come in and to stop the X-Wings from destroying the Death Star. And it's such a cool, like I said again, a really good fight, space fight, between the TIE fighters and the X-Wings. The special effects in the space battle, every effects in it, this battle is really astounding. ILM did a really good job, and yeah. Also, they'll be coming back for The Force Awakens as well, even though they do work for Lucasfilm and all that. They've done all the Star Wars movies, and I think it's really cool that they're coming back for Episode 7. And yeah. The one particular scene where they fly through the trench, that part where Biggs gets killed by one of the TIE fighters, his X-Wing is destroyed. We never have a shot where Lucas, ends up concerned by Biggs' death. We never had that moment. Why? You never know what. It's never explained, but it would have been good to see Biggs' death affect Luke. But that's how it works in a way. And these big cannons in the trench have good aim, but they somehow can't be able to hit these X-Wings in a straight line. Easiest targets to hit ever. Still misses. And here's where we see Vader in his own TIE fighter, deciding to go out and take out the X-Wings himself. Even though when he tries to hit Luke, he still takes his sweet ass time to shoot at Luke's X-Wing. I love this one part where one of the rebels, in his targeting computer, fires the proton torpedoes into the exhaust port, but misses. And I think that's really cool. Even Independence Day did that as well, where Bill Pullman fires one of his missiles against the big laser thing on the ship, the big ship, but misses. Negative impact. Plus, it makes the concerns for our hero more edge of the seat. We want our heroes to win. And this bit here where Luke looks through the targeting computer, and then he hears Obi-Wan telling him to use the Force. The music here is really breathtaking. The music, once again, the John Williams music is still breathtaking to this day. And here, Vader shoots, he's like this close against Luke's X-Wing and shoots, but misses and instead hits R2. Terrible aim again. This part here where the Death Star is now in range of Yavin 4 and is about close to firing on the planet to destroy the Rebel base. I love that. It makes the tension even more higher. This is where I believe in the original script Vader was killed in his TIE fighter, but instead he gets tossed out into space. When you see the torpedoes go through the porthole, it instead goes like this, instead of going like this. It must have a gravity well in there as well, instead of just the special edition cut. In the original 1977 cut, when the Death Star explodes, there was no Death Star. Shockwave, but the Shockwave was added in the special edition cuts. I think it's really cool, but if you had to twist my arm and choose which one, I would still prefer the original without the Shockwave, because reasons. I don't know, but I heard when Luke returns to Yavin 4, the Rebel base, and reunites with Leia, I think you can hear him yell, "Carrie!" It's been parodied many times because of that. Even Family Guy did it. Carrie! And I love the scene where the big ceremony at the end, where Han and Luke are awarded with little medals, these medals, necklaces, and it's such a cool moment to see them awarded for their heroic actions. And Han coming back at the end to help Luke in the final battle is so cool. It shows that he's changed. Such a good story arc once again. It's never explained why, but the Chewie isn't rewarded with a medal. It's never explained why. Maybe racial reasons? Based on what I heard, what I heard by someone else. But yeah, I don't know. But once again, John Williams' good music for the ceremony. So cool. And I love how it ends with the music building up and then it shows written and directed by George Lucas and does another piece of music by Williams. Such a cool way to end it. It makes you want to get up and cheer and clap. I bet that's what I don't know what happened, but I bet that's what the original audience had done back in 1977 when I first saw this. They must have cheered when it ended, because this movie is really good and very adventurous and wonderful, and the way it ends is such a great, beautiful, happy ending. So, I'm gonna give this a side note. I have some suggestions on other YouTube videos that review and discuss about Star Wars, such as the prequel trilogy, the special edition changes to the original trilogy, etc. You can check them out in the description below this video. Give them a try. They're fun, interesting, and educational to watch. I'm sure you might have seen them, but watch them again anyway, because reasons. But to say, I am a huge fan of Star Wars. Many people say that The Empire Strikes Back is their personal favorite out of the franchise, but I'd like to believe that this is my personal favorite. because this was the movie that started the franchise in the first place. So yeah, everything about this movie is perfect. The acting performances are good. The visual and the special effects by ILM are outstanding. Even the model work is still extraordinary compared to today's standards. The music score by John Williams is breathtaking. The simple good versus evil story is really good. The sound design by Ben Burtt is amazing, and so on. So, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And again, you can check out the Star Wars related videos in the description below. So thank you again. This is George Bean signing off, and may the Force be with you all.